Heimdall, I know it's been a while, but I could really use a fast exit. Heimdall?
Now, I know I'm like 2 years late with this, and that the whole one marvelous scene thing was supposed to build hype for Endgame, but I didn't have a channel then, and 2020 was the first time in 11 years that no new movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe was released. So what better time to revisit the old favourites? The One Marvelous Scene playlist is a great way to be reminded of what makes the Marvel Cinematic Universe great. If this is your first day on Video Essay YouTube and you don't already know, Nando v Movies brought together a group of remarkable YouTubers, and me, to share their love for one marvelous scene in the MCU. A lot of people talk about the MCU as being formulaic or repetitive, and I think this playlist does a great job of challenging that view and showcasing just how diverse these movies are. The scene I have chosen is the opening of Thor Ragnarok, because in just under 8 minutes, it completely revitalizes an entire franchise. The first 2 Thor movies are among the weakest in the MCU, and Thor the Dark World especially, well...
During this time, the borders between worlds become blurred. It's possible you found one of these points.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Out of alignment. Then the connection is lost.
Yeah. See, one of the problems I had with the early Thor films was that they took themselves too seriously. They never really took a step back and looked at the absurdity of the world of Asgard. The first Thor movie just dropped us into this mythical, magical world and just expected us to roll with it. This was a big ask, considering audiences at the time were used to the more grounded world established in Iron Man and Captain America. The closest we got to acknowledging how ridiculous the world of Thor is was this scene.
This drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
But that's fairly standalone. The humour here doesn't appear in other scenes of the movie, and besides, it's more fish out of water than self-deprecation. Eventually Marvel would learn that embracing the weirdness of these alien worlds was the best approach, but the first 2 Thor films suffered because they tried too hard to balance the grounded realism of Iron Man and Captain America with the crazy comic book world of Asgard. Now enter Taika Waititi. In my last video I talked about what makes his filmmaking style unique, so I won't repeat myself too much here. The main thing to know is that at the heart of his approach to storytelling is this concept.
What I find funny are things where Hulk and Thor would be sitting on a bed after having an argument and talking about feelings. Because I've never seen that before in a superhero movie. When you see how ridiculous these, or over the top these characters are, and then have them talking about stuff that we all talk about, you know, after we've had an argument, that to me is like, that is hilarious to me.
Taika's filmography has always been about finding humour by taking over-the-top characters or situations and setting those next to the ordinary. He calls this the comedy of the mundane, and by applying this to the MCU, he manages to completely reset the tone for the Thor franchise in the first couple of minutes of the movie. The first sign that something is different is that we're not starting with a prologue of exposition narrated by Anthony Hopkins. In fact, we don't get our backstory until 19 minutes into the film. Instead, the movie starts with Thor himself. Taika knows it's characters first, story second. The other Thor films not so much. There are some small signs of what's to come, but when we meet Surtur, we're reminded of the clunkiness of the old Thor films, especially the weird faux Shakespearean dialogue.
You know, it's funny you should mention that, because I've been having these terrible dreams of late.
We start settling in for another disappointment. Then, this happens.
The fall of Asgard, the great prophecy.
Hang on. I'll be back around shortly.
Suddenly, the whole tone of the scene has shifted. We get our first look at this new, playful Thor. We know that this is not going to be a movie that takes itself too seriously. See, Taika knows how over-the-top the world of Thor is. Rather than try to downplay it, he leans into it.
You rode a hammer.
No, I didn't ride that.
The hammer rode you on your back.
No. I used to spin it really fast, and it would pull me off the...
Oh my god, the hammer pulled you off.
So not only does this scene introduce us to a new version of Thor and reset the tone of the franchise, it also manages to foreshadow the climax of the movie.
Asgard up in flames, falling to ruins, and you, Surtur, are at the center of all of them.
But we're just getting started. As the dialogue starts building to the action, everything we have seen in Thor movies up until this point makes us expect the action to start here.
Because that's what heroes do.
But no, Taika takes one more moment to tell us that this movie This movie is going to be different, and he gets in one last laugh before... When the music and action does kick in, it's awesome. The Led Zeppelin needle drop here is the perfect mix of song to character. Like the humour did in the dialogue scene before, Taika uses the action half of the scene to show us that this film is not like the others. Using slow motion for key moments not only allows us to focus on Thor himself, it also sets up the film for later shots like this. The fact that the imagery in this film is inspired by the classical Renaissance paintings is no accident. Taika has spoken about them as an early source of inspiration. He got obsessed with the Sistine Chapel, and years later, here he is bringing scenes like that to life on film. It's pretty cool. And in doing so, Taika takes the Marvel trope of bland CGI armies and turns it into something beautiful. The action finishes, or at least we think it does. But again, Taika doesn't give us what we expect. Instead, we get this absolutely hilarious scene with fellow New Zealander Carl Urban.
Behold, my stuff.
And this scene is not just played for laughs, it helps build tension in the action scene with Thor. We're 6 minutes into the movie and we're already on the edge of our seat looking at this shot. I mean, come on, where was this in the other Thor films? This scene is just the absolute perfect opening. It sets up the main character, sets the tone of the film, looks and sounds amazing, makes us laugh, and completely blows the last 2 films in the series out of the water. In 8 minutes, Taika has already topped the previous 4 hours of Thor movies. And that is why the opening of Thor Ragnarok is truly a marvelous scene. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then click all the buttons and let me know that you liked it. If you want to hear me talk more about Taika Waititi's other movies, then you can check out that video right here. Thanks to Nando for including me in the playlist, and thanks to you for watching.